You were half asleep when you finally made it home and collapsed onto your bed. Soon, morning had come again. The afternoon that followed moved strangely fast and slow because you knew there was another date at the end of it. Exactly as promised, you received a text with the set hour to meet him at his condo. I'm so nervous. Please don't overdo it, Baxter. Baxter informed you that it was going to be late when you'd be leaving, so he recommended that you have dinner as usual. Apparently, this place did not serve meals, only drinks and appetizers. Interesting. Along with that, Baxter made the eyebrow-raising suggestion that you should wear formal attire. Even more interesting. He included an assurance that he'd be prepared when you were ready to leave. I knew he was gonna go all out. I can't wait to see this fancy schmancy place he's taking me to. During dinner, you mentioned that you were going out for drinks with Baxter later. Yeah, so moms, I'm going out for drinks with my boyfriend. Don't stay up. Don't wait for me. Your moms were still commenting on your plans when you left to get ready. I don't think my parents would ever, at this age, just be like, oh, you're going out for drinks at night. Yeah, that's fine. Like, even if it was like with friends, I don't think they'd be okay with it. Let alone a guy, like, This Molly's living her best life. Even a few teasing remarks over the dress code floated upstairs with you. When you opened your drawer, your mind was made up. You'd wear something grandly formal. Formal. He said formal. I shall comply. It was odd putting on some of your nicer things when you had no clue what you were even dressing up for, but there was also something exciting about having that mystery too. Looking at yourself in the mirror, you admired the sophisticated person staring back. It wasn't often that you did this. Slowly but surely, you were figuring out this growing up thing. Look at you! She says, looking at her stuffies in the corner. You can have stuffies and plushies as an adult. Speaking from personal experience here. And now it just occurs to me, what is he going to be wearing exactly? I'm curious. There were a few minutes left before you had to leave, so you made sure that you had everything you might need while you were out. You ran through the essentials. Phone, house keys, money, ID. As bad as you felt for Baxter, you didn't want to run into a similar problem of forgetting something important. It was a good reminder for both of you to be careful. Once you knew it was all there, you went downstairs and waved to your moms on the way out of the house. Their goodbyes and well wishes reached you as you locked up. I feel like Cinderella. You walked down the street and arrived at Baxter's house. Quite literally seconds after ringing the doorbell, you heard the rattle of the doorknob turning. Why do I just picture him, like, standing there ready to pounce as soon as the doorbell went? Just like, hiya! I will not be late this time. Wow. Wow. Love a guy in a suit. Glad I went formal, but not crazy. He's not like in a bow tie with coattails and all the rest. He's just in a nice suit. So I think we did well. The door casually opened. Not too fast, not too slow. And there on the threshold was Baxter, though this time he wasn't in his pajamas, but instead a full suit. That was, naturally, also black and white.
Hello. Thank you for coming.
You took a deep breath. So much for looking the part. Honestly, you intended to dress properly, but Baxter was still in another stratosphere in comparison. That suit was probably tailor-made.
You are incredible.
Dull.
You're fantastic, Molly. I can't tell you enough how delighted I am that you're accompanying me tonight.
You're sure?
Absolutely. You'll be one of the best-dressed attendees there.
You nodded and then let out a tiny sigh of relief. If Baxter didn't have a problem with the clothes you picked, then you weren't going to waste your energy worrying either. I'm kind of curious what his reaction would be depending on the other choices. Especially like the casual one. But, yeah. Might have to do that as an AU. This is bad. And this suits you. You brought a full... Of course he brought a full suit for a summer vacation. What? And even if he didn't, he would just go and get a suit. It wouldn't even be a bother. Gosh, I'm so torn between these. This one just tickles my fancy, though. And this suits you. Channeling every bit of your mom's pun power, you teasingly finish your joke by waving your hands in front of him. Baxter snorted and instantly tried hiding his face by turning away from you. Oh my gosh, the snort chuckle! I'm weak. I'm weak. Wait. Wait, I need to hear it again. Oh, this is so cute! Stop! Why are you so perfect? Ugh.
Thank you. Very much. I had a feeling I might need this while I was vacationing here.
Now that you'd gotten a good eyeful, you could discern that Baxter was truly himself. The exhaustion and the embarrassment from yesterday's morning adventure was entirely removed from his features. How have you been? Yeah, this. You couldn't shake any part of it, especially how upset Baxter got about the whole incident. This time, though, he should understand that you weren't expecting him or his plans to be perfect. Still, you were prepared to remind him if things came to that.
Now.
Shall we go? This isn't something we'd want to be late for.
Lead the way. And so you both climbed into his car and were off. Baxter drove you out of the neighborhood. Your attention lingered on the starry sky for a moment, able to see a good view of the moon until he took a lazy turn. When you turned back to Baxter, his expression said little. He still offered no obvious hints about your destination. The only thing you could count on was that the place would serve some form of liquid. Probably. You decided to take a more active approach rather than worry about it. Your gaze fell to the rearview mirror. Baxter's focused eyes reflected back at you as you made up your mind on what to ask. Baxter, where are we going?
Well...
He diligently stared at the road, not yet out of the residential streets of Sunset Bird. You caught a glimpse of his excitement as he continued talking.
If you recall, I mentioned how we saw some shows while on my trip within a trip. You could call that my inspiration. Once you graciously accepted my invitation, I began the endeavor to search for a particular performance we could see together.
To be honest,
I had high hopes for what I could manage, even with such short notice, and happily, I doubt you shall be disappointed.
Okay. He let his words settle, drumming up the anticipation. Coincidentally, the car rolled to a stop at a light. He turned to you with a proud grin.
Tonight, we'll be seeing a live show featuring a comedy of error-style romance.
You are perfect. In every way. I love the coffee date, but this fancy thing is like, it speaks to me, okay? Man, this is ideal night out. His foot pressed on the gas and he turned on the main road. A show? It wasn't anything you were expecting, but then again, it was Baxter. You were getting the impression he liked to surprise you. However, something was beginning to bother you. You'd agreed to a specific invitation and were prepared for drinks, not a play. Yes, but I knew, future Molly knew that he was going to go over the top with it. What about the drinks? Watching a show and getting a drink with someone sort of feel like different things. You understood that Baxter was striving for a mystery here, but still.
I am very pleased you asked.
Baxter's smile grew. He had expected your reaction.
They do serve drinks, an excellent selection from what I found. And it will only be drinks. There is no food on the menu.
He shrugged his shoulders, not particularly finding that to be a loss. You were glad you weren't hungry.
However, as promised, the drinks are crucial to the experience. You see, this isn't at some grand arena. You'll find tonight's entertainment is at the spectacularly immersive setting of a jazz bar.
Stop. Oh gosh. Jazz bar! Yes! Take me back to my Persona 5 Royal days.
All patrons will witness the story unfold in that very room.
His voice lowered, theatrically so, fitting for the topic of conversation.
Does that sound alright?
Also, if you'd like, it's possible for the actors to interact with you directly.
That's... That sounds social. How very, social. Oh, that's amazing. How very Baxter Ward of you. Stop. I'm torn between these two. I think I would be so excited, honestly. That's amazing! You'd never heard of anything like that in the area. You wondered how Baxter had found it. It sounded like so much fun. He let out a single gleeful chuckle and brightened considerably.
Excellent.
I thought you'd appreciate it. It was so fortunate that they were having a performance tonight.
No kidding. It was perfect. You couldn't wait to get there. You pictured the place, figuring it'd look classy. Maybe there'd be a band in the corner and elaborately dressed actors right out of an old noir movie. How exciting! You'd get to see the show up close. Baxter drove into the heart of the city, passing by the twinkling lights of the urban night until he pulled into a public parking lot. He switched his phone's map app to walking mode.
It's an 8-minute stroll from here.
You shrugged, not needing to point out that walking tended to be your main form of transportation anyways. Both of you exited the car, and Baxter made a note of where exactly he was leaving it. Luckily, the lot was well lit and located in a busy area. It'd be hard to miss. He led you across a road and then followed the sidewalk until his phone proclaimed that you had reached the correct building. Baxter got the door for you. Inside, he switched his phone off of the map and continued tapping away at it.
Now, where is it?
He huffed as he scrolled the screen. You could immediately tell when he found what he was looking for from his reaction. He'd finally relaxed into his normal state of friendly nonchalance. Curious, you poked your head closer to read what it was. It made sense when you saw it was digital confirmation of his purchase tickets. In front of you was a small line where a man would check tickets before waving people onward. Baxter slipped into the back, and you waited until it'd be needed.
I'm glad we arrived on time. Missing the show is likely the only chance of this event going awry.
You had to put that into the universe, didn't you? It'll be alright no matter. I mean it. The other guests in line were dressed to the nines. Some were even in vintage clothes. I could have really gone all out. Baxter's previous advice was correct. The wait wasn't too long. After chatting with Baxter for a moment, it was his turn to show his digital tickets. The usher was young, probably only a few years older than you. The bags around his eyes spoke to the fact that this was nowhere near the start of his day.
These are for you and your friend, right?
You nodded and took a step next to Baxter, making it clear that you were here together.
Cool. Thanks for coming in.
We are thankful for you having us.
Baxter shoved his phone into his pocket for good once he got approval. He inspected the two of you and tilted his head to the side.
Here's some ground rules before you enter the show. Everyone gets them.
He began explaining the guidelines, a succinct list that he'd obviously said hundreds of times before. For the most part, the rules wanted you to act as a polite human being. You could do that.
Last, if you want to actually participate in the show, you can take one of these necklaces.
He pointed out a box full of glowing jewel necklaces. Each was gaudy enough that anyone wearing one would be noticeable in a crowd.
Wearing one of these beauties means that you're a part of the same world as the actors are. No necklace, no participation. The actors will treat you like an invisible audience member.
That's a good way to do it.
You can still speak out if you're suddenly inspired, but nobody's gonna put focus directly on you. So, any takers?
My pleasure.
Baxter volunteered immediately, and the usher fished a necklace from the box. I'd like one too. It's fun. Those are so much fun. I've been to a couple of those, and they're... For someone who's got social anxiety, I really enjoy those shows. I think because it's not... I don't know, you get so wrapped up in the world that the actors are portraying that you don't even feel like you, so... I don't know, at least it gives me the confidence to do it. But normally I shy away from anything like this, but in this particular instance, I'm like, yes, please. The usher pulled out a second necklace and handed them out with an encouraging expression.
Enjoy the show!
You were waved off and allowed to enter into the showroom past heavy double doors. Wow. Oh, it's so cozy. I love it. Yeah, this is delightful. The showroom was a sight to behold. From floor to ceiling, it was lit up, yet none of that was bright enough to be blinding. The bar was full of expensive bottles and gilded engravings. The back had a pit for musicians, large enough for a full band to play. The instruments were already set up. You were taken to the bar and seated at the 2 empty stools at the end. The booths along the walls were already filled with groups of other guests, laughing and clinking glasses. They had a full house. This was a popular event, maybe a bigger deal than what Baxter had presented it as. The ages varied. Some of the crowd was made up of fresh-faced 20-somethings, while others were silver-haired elders. You may have been the youngest in the room. And almost everyone was dressed up. Sequin dresses, fitted suits, and expensive jewelry as far as the eye could see. No broad generalization to be made about the kind of people who would watch a show at a jazz club, other than most of them knew how to dress. The few exceptions in casual clothes stuck out between all the elaborate, well-coiffed looks. That second usher bowed and left you alone just for a bartender to appear out of nowhere and pick it right up where they left off. He passed each of you a drink menu, smooth and practiced.
Nice to see you tonight. Just let me know when you're ready to order. Of course.
The bartender inclined his head cordially, and then busied himself with polishing a glass with a white cloth. The jazz bar took the immersion seriously. Even the guy serving drinks had the proper aesthetic for the world this show took place in. He wore subtle eyeliner, and there was something about how he carried himself that made him seem like he'd wandered off a movie set, especially with highly coordinated, shabby clothes for a uniform. You shared a look with Baxter before examining the menu. From first glance, it was impressive. In total, it held 5 pages of drinks, each with detailed descriptions, and some even had photos. You turned to the last section entirely for non-alcoholic drinks. Definitely don't need alcohol when I can't even say non-alcoholic. You read the blurbs, enjoying both the descriptiveness and the sense of humor. A few minutes later, a waiter in a full suit turned up. His tie was a muted maroon, and the only thing separating him from his clients was his pad for taking orders. You wondered why he approached you rather than leaving you to the bartender. Maybe because it was so busy?
Welcome to our show. Can I get you anything, or do you need some more time?
Baxter leaned forward in his chair, no hesitation.
I would like a baby Bellini, please.
Baxter passed the menu back. The waiter took it with a polite nod, then turned to you. You glanced over your options with one final read-through and then said you would like... Let's see, what do we got? Cider. Elderflower cordial. That sounds interesting. A fruit-only martini, tropical fish, Shirley Temple, cherry cola, whiskey sour mocktail, virgin pina colada, Arnold Palmer, Virgin Mary, citrus sunshine mocktail, baby Bellini 2, 0 proof margarita, just water. Can't have just water. I usually go for a virgin pina colada as far as mocktails are concerned, but I don't know, it just feels kind of out of place here. It's so tropical, you know? At least I find them. I'm really curious. I think I'd like to try something new today. I have no idea. I'm actually going to look at what an elderflower cordial is. It's on the menu. It's described in the menu. Trust. I'm not Googling it. Elderflower cordial. Not just elderflower. It had it. Drink. Thank you. It's a soft drink made largely from a refined sugar and water solution and uses the flowers of the European elder. A soft drink? Okay. Do I want that? Could also go whiskey sour. Whiskey sour mocktail. I have too many choices. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try something new. You handed your menu over, and the waiter put it with Baxter's. He inclined his head politely one more time.
Thank you, esteemed guests. I'll return shortly.
The waiter sauntered off and vanished through a side door away from the bar. Baxter's fingertips tapped the counter rhythmically. The soft sounds faded into a din around you. He met your inquisitive glance with confidence.
Not bad.
I knew what I wanted as soon as I saw that name. I firmly appreciate sparkling drinks, as well as peaches.
With a wicked smirk, his voice lowered to a husky rumble. Stop! What are you about to do to me? Wait. Wait. Think about it. Of course. Of course. Yes.
I would prefer it without the baby, however.
Baxter, you shouldn't say that. I mean, my initial reaction was...
It's only the truth.
In the distance, the musicians filtered onto the stage from backstage. The sounds of tuning strings took over the soundscape as they prepared for the big event.
Exciting.
The action approaches.
There were still a few minutes before he thought the production was scheduled to start. The air was full of anticipation, but still relaxed. The two of you chatted over your respective jazz music experience until the waiter arrived with the drinks. The waiter carried a silver platter with stiff formality. He passed out the glasses, not even leaving fingerprints due to his white gloves. Curiously, neither drink had been filled at the bar you were sitting at. He placed your elderflower cordial on the counter in front of you before setting down Baxter's baby Bellini. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Gently, Baxter lifted his drink to his lip and sipped at the fruity beverage. He appeared as the very picture of sophistication, with a stem glass in hand and a distant, unreachable gaze. Sitting there with him, everything suddenly hit you. His formal clothes, his fancy drink, the glamorous setting, and his dazzling smile all came together. He had pulled out all the stops for this adventure, and she finally gets it. It felt like whiplash compared to what happened with the far simpler, much more normal cafe date. It had to be intentional. You were certain that this sparkling glitz was his goal. He'd practically said it out loud with his original invitation. You were never going to underestimate him whenever he got an opportunity to prepare. You picked up your own drink and sampled the refreshment. It was delicious and had a pleasant consistency. After a flicker of the lights and an electric moment of silence, you heard the sounds of a keyboard. The crowd hushed, waiting on bated breath, and the rest of the band kicked in. A saxophone cut into the song before being backed by a chorus of trumpets. A bass player strummed along while the drummer kept the time. Everyone around you straightened, on the lookout for something. Nobody was sure what, but they'd know when they saw it. The double doors at the front opened, and all eyes were on a pair as they entered. The leader strode in with her heels clicking against the glowing walkway. Her form-fitting evening gown sparkled in the dazzling lights. She strutted to the center of the room, a grimace on her red-painted lips. Behind her, another actor casually followed. They easily could have been passed over, especially with many of the guests around them dressed far more formally. This character was plain in appearance, especially compared to the glitter of the other. They took quicker steps and reached out. Oh. Both of the characters came to an abrupt stop at the center of the room. The glamorous one spoke loudly, letting her words carry over the band. "My darling friend, you know I don't have time for this. I have to prepare for the show and must rest my voice. How else will I manage to sing? The singer sidestepped away from her friend, greatening the space between them. I do not want to discuss this. The friend shrunk away but refused to back down. There was fight in the way they stood. The singer sighed. She crossed her arms, her frustration towards the topic making her next words bitter. It is more than enough that my parents and his parents keep bothering me. You don't need to add to that number, my dear.
I can't leave it alone, not when you're making such a mistake.
The singer put her hand up, dismissing her friend. Her movements were as sharp as her stilettos. I repeat, I don't have time for this. I am going to my dressing room. She swept across the room and then glanced your direction before quickly looking away. She exited through a door near the band. You were struck by her last expression. Was that sorrow? Longing? Either way, you had gathered the situation. The two were acquainted, and the diva was a performer at the venue. Her friend wasn't. They had come to offer unwanted but likely needed assistance. The music slowed down, suddenly somber after the frenetic energy of the singer's outburst. Her friend hadn't moved. They hugged their arms around themselves and slumped in defeat. You were so focused on them that when a voice came right from behind, you almost fell out of your stool. It's like talking to a brick wall, isn't it? You craned your head over to the bartender. He was the same man who had passed you the drink menu. He was still at work polishing a glass. He was part of the bit all along. That probably wasn't even a real bar. Yet again, their commitment to realism surprised you. The friend took a deep breath before rushing over to the counter. Now that they were closer, you could tell their clenched hands were shaking. They directed a scowl at the bartender in full force.
You need to talk to her.
Unlike when they had spoken to the singer, these words were bitten out. They weren't as close to the bartender, and not willing to allow him the same niceties afforded to their friend. The bartender scoffed in their face. He wasn't any fonder of them, but he was trying to retain an ounce of professional decorum. Why would I? I've got no attachment to that lady. None of the crowd was buying it. You heard unconvinced snorts throughout the room. And she acted like I wasn't even here besides. She wants the stage, and that's it. All I'm good for is watching her, same as everyone else in the world. He gripped the glass tightly. You could faintly hear the polishing cloth squeak against it. She's not interested in my words, just as she told you. There's no time for that. The friend objected harshly, pointing a finger into the bartender's face. They weren't letting him get away with such a falsehood.
She can't admit it because you won't admit it.
You're making me laugh, kid. The only folks who want us together are you and our parents. He shooed the friend away by flinging his hand through the air. He had the audience captivated, half of them flinching from the gesture. I'm working. Don't block the bar. The friend tossed their hair at him before they skulked away. They waved at a booth of necklace-wearing guests and then slid onto the edge of the cushion. They rolled their eyes and their entire head along with it, intentionally exaggerating, and their new table mates snickered.
I don't know how I put up with either of them.
You were starting to get the feel for the show. All the actors' behaviors were turned up to 11 for the sake of comedy, and the heart of the story was clear. The venue singer and his bartender were in love, but wouldn't admit it due to outside pressure and fear that the other didn't feel the same. A clattering sound brought your attention back to the bartender. He put the glass he had been polishing away. With his hands free, he idly glanced around for his next task. He settled on you and Baxter. His gaze dropped to your necklaces, and he gave a professional smile. You were both in the story world. Can I get either of you anything? Refills? A new drink? On the house. Consider it an apology for all the ruckus. He leaned over the counter and nodded pointedly at the friend. They blocked their face with their hand and sunk into the booth, trying to escape the stare. One of the guests at their table happened to have a paper fan and held it out to them. They gratefully took it and hid behind it instead. The bartender shook his head, fed up. Baxter, meanwhile, grinned.
Gladly.
That would be delightful. I could use another baby Bellini. Of course, sir.
Even while the picture of poise and polite manners, Baxter gave the air of being quite smug over the formal address. The bartender shifted closer to you. You could now smell his spice cologne.
And you?
You shifted around in your seat, shy under his gaze. It took more out of you to answer him since everyone was watching. You were a part of tonight's entertainment. Not wanting to hold up the show for long, you asked the bartender for... I guess I'm having another drink. What do I want this time? Let's mix it up. I'm kind of curious about this baby Bellini. I actually want to look that up too. I'm uncultured. I don't know what these drinks are, so I have to keep looking up things. What is a baby Bellini? Baby... Bellini? I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly. Peach and champagne. Okay. I'm not a big champagne girly though, so maybe not that. You know what? I'm gonna get the same thing. No mixing it up. Just another. Bartender, another! Got it. The bartender looked around the shelves of the fake bar, but scratched his head. Oh, darn. I'm missing something. I always tell the owner he needs to keep this place better stocked. He grumbled a little more, earnest complaints. Not one to give up, he thought about his options. The crowd tittered with amusement as the friend peeked out with a flush on their cheeks from the other side of the room.
If I'm right, there's some in the back. I'll return with your drink soon. Of course, there's no need to hurry. I appreciate it.
Baxter lifted his existing baby Bellini with the drama of a supervillain. You wondered if he was being unaware or trying to put on a good show. I'm enjoying it. The bartender threw his cleaning cloth over his shoulder and briskly abandoned his station. He disappeared through a curtained door beside the bar. You guessed that the real drink station was through there. You'd noticed the actual waiter bounce from table to table fulfilling orders even during the performance. It made sense to keep the supplies somewhere off stage so that the bar could keep putting out drinks no matter what was happening with the story. Without the bartender, you and Baxter had to reorient yourselves as to where the action went. Most of the crowd's eyes were away from the tables. The friend character had scrambled out of the booth and paced along the length of the room. They were still troubled and stopped just short of biting their nails. Just as they'd clasped their hands together, the singer made her reappearance. Music swelled as she sashayed out of her dressing room, once more the center of attention. Her presence spellbound the crowd, instantly taking focus.
Oh!
The friend cautiously crept over to her, stepping around the tables between them.
Feeling refreshed?
Of course, darling. I'm a professional.
Speaking of professionalism, why didn't you say hi to the bartender earlier? He is here, you know.
The singer scoffed, echoing the exact same cadence the bartender had before. They were a perfect match of stubbornness.
He doesn't like me. He made it very clear. He told his parents as much. He told my parents.
She struck a defiant pose, sounding utterly disgusted.
Who does that? What a cad!
Her friend scratched the back of their head. Their face twisted comedically as they chose their words with care.
Didn't you tell his parents that you did not like him when they suggested it? I also recall when your parents accused you of being attached to him, you denied it. Vehemently? With him in the room?
The singer huffed but didn't deny the events. She and the bartender's relationship was messy.
And isn't it true that you do like our illustrious bartender? If your foolish parents hadn't meddled, you would be all over each other by now.
Ha! The singer let out a deliberate, prideful laugh. It was dark and barely concealing very real hurt.
Do not even pretend. He doesn't care for me, and I don't care for him.
She cast her gaze over the pockets of attendees gathered around her and spread her arms wide. I bet everyone in this room heard him bad-mouthing me as soon as I left. Didn't you? You said you were like a brick wall. I'm gonna help them out. I'm gonna help the couple out. He said he doesn't think you like him. She snapped her fingers and pointed at you. The weight of the room's stairs landed on your face. Good, because that's exactly right. The crowd laughed at that, and she played them into a boisterous chatter. When the room finally settled and the singer had passed along a few more barbs about the bartender, the friend slung an arm around her.
Can't you please hear me out?
The singer groaned and shrugged out of her friend's embrace. She backed up with a frown. I need a drink. She spun to face the bar before thinking better of it. Apparently, she didn't need a drink that badly. Not here, of course. I have standards. The sole of her shoe tapped on the floor. She needed action to deal with all that restless energy. I believe this counts as an emergency. Please hold, I need to fetch my crisis bottle from my purse. She stuck her nose high in the air and swanned off to her dressing room once more. Her friend stood alone in the center of the room. The decrescendo of the music made the room quiet. In the distance, a door slammed. The diva reached her room. Her abandoned friend visibly winced at the anger of the noise. They closed their eyes and mentally counted to 10. Slowly, their stance unwound as they forced themselves to relax. They glanced furtively to the left and then to the right.
Okay.
The last actor left spoke to the entire room, projecting their voice loudly.
While they're gone, does anyone have any ideas to get those two to admit their actual feelings? It has been weeks of me putting up with their arguments. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm plumb out of ideas.
People began to shout things out or whisper amongst groups. The friend listened attentively as if one suggestion might hold the key of their very survival. Not all of the ideas were positive or even workable plans.
Just give up.
I'm too stubborn for that. They aren't getting out of this that easily.
Lock them in the back room together until they confess.
I tried that last week. My friend knows how to pick the lock.
Try making the bartender jealous. Set her up with someone else.
I'll do it.
Wait. Aha!
The friend spied a vase full of flowers on a table near the back. They scrambled to collect them into a bouquet.
These should work. The flowers can be given to our singer in celebration to her performance. If she thinks they're from the bartender, maybe.
This new electric smile on their face contrasted their previous expression. For a moment, though, they faltered.
But I can't give these to her. She'll know immediately that they weren't from the bartender. Would anyone else be willing to help out? I know those two aren't giving the best impression, but when they aren't trying to prove each other wrong, they're very cute together.
They searched through the crowd, brow furrowed.
Please.
She'll be suspicious of me, though, because I was trying to help them earlier. I feel like Baxter is going to do it, and I think he would be really good for this part. After no one else stepped forward, Baxter lifted his hand politely.
I can do that.
I would not mind assisting.
Thank you.
The friend bounded over to Baxter and passed him the bouquet. He took it confidently and nodded.
You are saving my sanity. They keep getting worse. Anyways, here's the plan.
Although their tone was hushed, as you'd be when sharing a secret, their pitch carried throughout the space. They were a talented actor, especially without any microphone to aid them.
I'll go get her. You need to call her over and pretend the bartender got those flowers for her, but was too shy to hand them over directly.
Agreed. I shall endeavor to make her believe me.
The friend gave a thumbs up and scampered off to where the singer had left. Baxter inspected the flowers he held. The colors were vibrant. The bouquet would fit the starlit singer well, circumstances aside. A familiar smirk appeared on his lips. He delicately stroked a petal with the back of a knuckle. His voice was low and in your ear. Oh no, what is it this time? Be gentle with me.
You know,
Okay, thank goodness. I'm like, please nothing suggestive.
This is unlikely to work, but I do admire the friend's effort.
Oh, shush you. I will whisper my agreement. Yeah. It was an admittedly silly plan, and there was no way that the singer would abandon her convictions for a few flowers. Maybe she'd surprise you, but even then, there was no contingency for the bartender.
However, I do look forward to the results. I'm expecting a great deal of entertainment.
The door to the singer's dressing room swung open, and the friend pulled the singer back into the main room. Their arms were locked together, but the singer was dragging her very tall high heels all the way. In one manicured hand was a tiny bottle, no doubt the aforementioned emergency alcohol. It was already half gone.
It's not good to stay holed up by yourself all the time. You don't need to hide from everyone.
I'm not hiding. I am simply very busy.
Uh-huh.
Since they weren't a fool, like the parents, the friend didn't buy that at all. Once the friend reached the center of the room, they released the singer. She rolled her shoulder back, still affronted by the rough treatment. Showtime!
hello.
Excuse me.
Baxter leaned back on his bar stool almost lazily and waved at the singer.
I hate to bother you while you're so busy, but I have a gift for you.
The singer dramatically faced him, her hair swishing with the movement. She sized him up, the flowers catching her attention. His smile was calm as he held the bouquet out to her.
It's from an admirer.
Boldly, the singer walked up to him, heels clacking all the way. She was interested, but suspicious. What admirer?
Why, it was the bartender. How unexpected.
Miss Starlet gasped and pressed both hands to her chest. She squinted back hard at the flowers as if it was a nest of snakes. She unscrewed the cap of her small bottle and tipped it between her pursed lips. She chugged the remaining liquid down. That got a huge laugh from the audience. She slammed her empty bottle down on the bar's counter and gasped for air with a frightening glare. But gently and slowly, ever so slowly, she reached out. Her fingertips touched a single flower stem. She paused, then finished the movement and wrapped her digits around it. Baxter patiently remained still for as long as she needed to process the present. Without warning, there came a shout from the far end of the bar. Got your drinks right here! Every head turned to see the bartender making his reappearance, a tray of drinks balanced on his right arm. How do you feel about your girl getting flowers from somebody else, Mr. Bartender? Sorry for the wait. Just had to... He froze, mid-sentence, staring at the scene he'd returned to witness. The singer, standing next to Baxter, being offered a bouquet, a single flower clutched in her hand. It was deathly quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the band had stopped playing. Until... Ah! Suddenly, the singer let out a mortified shriek. She flung the proffered flower and bolted, beating a frantic, desperate escape. She careened around the corner and then... Slam! The deafening sound of a door being rammed shut. Another awful silence formed. Having remained frozen when the singer fled, the bartender's attention returned to where you and Baxter were at the bar. His eyes were drilling holes into Baxter, his glare darting between his face and the remains of the bouquet, which he was still holding. He'd been caught red-handed, literally on account of the roses. It was unspeakably awkward. Even though your brain was screaming, "It's not real!" you couldn't help but be swept up in the overwhelming sense of unease filling the room. Slowly, the bartender marched over to the counter, his footsteps weighty and full of intent. He firmly set down the tray of drinks. The glasses rattled angrily, but not a drop was spilled. Then he cocked his hip and folded his muscular arms, striking a pose which felt almost threatening and bristled with suspicion. Well now, I see how it is. He flicked a finger up and down, sizing Baxter up with it. So this piano-headed chump is who I'm losing to. Really? The rather silly epithet got a fair number of titters from the audience, but the bartender wasn't laughing. He made a bitter sound at the back of his throat and shook his head. He muttered angrily under his breath. I should have known.
Wait!
A cry came from the other side of the room. The mutual friend, face distraught, was bustling their way over, limbs flapping with panic.
I can explain. It's all a misunderstanding. What I'm trying to say is...
Stumbling over their own words, the friend attempted to lay out the situation. The flowers were all part of a plan to get the singer to admit to her own feelings. As the friend nervously rambled, Baxter placed the bouquet down on the counter cautiously, but firmly. Then he threaded his fingers together in a silent promise to swear off the florals. At first, you weren't convinced it would work. The bartender's expression was thunderous as a summer rain cloud. His brows were set in a 90-degree angle, stern as steel. But as some of the other patrons began to chime in with words of confirmation, his dark countenance began to clear. A number of emotions melted into each other on his face. Anger became confusion, confusion became understanding, and understanding became acceptance. He let out a long, tired sigh and unfolded his arms. Okay. I hear ya. You were only trying to help. I'm sorry. He directed this apology to Baxter. I shouldn't have gotten angry. There's nothing wrong with your hair, don't worry. I saw you holding those flowers and lost my cool. He chuckled bleakly. That's on me. I'm the problem here. At this, he hung his head and slouched where he stood. I can't believe she'd run away like that, screaming as if she'd seen a ghost. Like I was the worst thing in the world. Is it really that awful, being around me? Am I really that bad? His voice was thick with emotion, pain behind every word. There was barely a dry eye in the whole building. A chorus of sympathy rose up from the people around you, sounds of comfort and encouragement in equal measure. The tender walked behind his bar and came to rest his palms flat on the counter, his thick arms spread wide. I wish I knew what to do, you know. If only there were something. Anything. It was a frank admission, laden heavy with resignation. He bowed his head again and was silent. There was a pointed pause. Into it, you heard Baxter gently clear his throat.
Honestly.
If you'll permit me to say, it can be hard to know what to do in these kinds of situations. But the important thing is that it's making you unhappy. Once you realize that, it should at least be obvious what not to continue doing. Dancing around your feelings like this will only lead further and further from what you want. So why stick to the same old tune?
The bartender gradually lifted his face to peer up at Baxter with an inscrutable expression.
If you like the charming singer, then what could you ever have to gain by insisting otherwise? You don't need to propose or anything equally drastic, but why push her away when all you want is to get closer?
His voice gained a faint lilting cadence, almost like he was a singer too, before it tapered away to nothing. On the countertop, you saw the bartender clench a fist. You got me pegged. You and everyone else in this joint. So I like her already. What good is that? She thinks I'm a joke. She wouldn't be seen dead with someone like me. We all know that too. You saw what just happened. Am I supposed to make myself look like an idiot? Waltz on over and tell her we should be pals? I'd be straight up begging to be laughed at. I couldn't take it. Not from her. My friend's right, you know. You're an embarrassment, though. It's always hard to put yourself out there, but isn't it better than the alternative? One hand came up to scratch the nape of his neck, in a universal gesture of awkwardness. I guess you got a point there.
I get it.
I understand the concern. You needn't go any further than you're able. The key is that you step forward in the first place, or at least resist the urge to continue moving backwards. When the time comes, don't pull away. You'll only regret it later.
The bartender rested one arm across the counter, easing into a stance that was more casual. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. His body language was loosening up. You gathered that he was mulling over what had been said, taking it all in. After a short while, he cracked a cautious grin.
You know, it's usually other people who want me to listen to their problems. And by listening, I mean I just help them pick a poison. You know, blunt the edges when nothing else can. Never thought I'd be on the receiving end, though.
He rapped a knuckle on the countertop and straightened up suddenly.
Ah, shoot! I forgot the ice with your drinks. I'm being real sloppy tonight, letting personal stuff get in the way of business. Sorry about that.
He began to walk towards the heavy curtain, his black shoes echoing loudly on the floor.
Let me go take care of that. And maybe cool myself off for a sec while I'm at it.
With a click of his heels and a swish of the curtain, he was gone. Now what? Became the unspoken consensus of the audience. An answer came shortly. Psst! It was in the form of a loud hiss from the other side of the room, from behind the corner where the singer had vanished. Your focus swung back to see the lady in question poking her head out shy as a dormouse. She cupped her fingers around her mouth, keeping to a stage whisper. Is he gone? Various assenting voices chimed in. Baxter flashed her a quick thumbs up. Seeing that the coast was clear, the singer's head vanished for a brief instant before reappearing, the rest of her following along with it. She swanned her way into the main area, oozing feigned confidence. All the terror of her departure had gone, hastily pasted over as though nothing had happened. She brought up a hand to shade her eyes, casting a look around the room. Her immaculately lipsticked lips parted. Has my dear, delightful, meddlesome friend decided to finally beat it too?
Not yet!
The friend's voice called out from somewhere behind you. While everyone's attention had been elsewhere, they had managed to collect the discarded bouquet. In their other hand was the lone flower the singer herself had pitched. They held it out to her.
I'm sorry. About the flowers? I lied. They weren't from him. They never were to begin with.
The singer clapped over her mouth in shock. What? You tricked me! Her cry projected clear as a bell, ringing with hurt and betrayal. Her pristine face was crumpled in a furious scowl, directed first at the friend and then everyone else in the room. And you were all in on it! The friend darted to her side in an effort to placate, babbling apologies over and over with a mollifying tone.
I know. I'm a terrible friend and I shouldn't have done it.
Huh! Finally, something we can agree on!
Fine. I deserve that. But just hear me out, okay? Even though they weren't from him, there's nothing stopping you from flipping this on its head.
I'm not sure I like where this is going. I'm a singer, not an acrobat.
It's easy. When he comes back, why don't you get the flowers to him?
The singer stared blankly for a few seconds, then tossed her head back and bellowed with laughter. Her once lyrical voice was now cold and callous in timbre.
Oh, my darling friend, you should really consider joining the circus. I've never heard something so ludicrous.
This is serious. I just know it'll work, believe me. I'll be rooting for you. And not only me, you all think so too, right, gang?
At their prompting, the room was filled with shouts of agreement.
Yeah!
We'll be right behind you!
It's okay, don't be afraid.
What have you got to lose?
The comments came bright and fast. More people pitched in with remarks about what had happened while the singer was gone, others simply nodded along. Though she'd readily dismissed her friend's suggestion, the audience's reaction seemed to be more convincing. She stood in the middle of the flurry of sound, head cocked, listening intently. At that very moment, there was a shuffling from behind the curtained entrance. The fabric parted to reveal the bartender, carrying a palm-sized metal bowl piled high with ice. For the second time this evening, everyone froze in place. The singer slowly rotated on her heels to face him. His eyes were wide with surprise. Suddenly, she stumbled forward. The mutual friend had given her a nudge, knocking her off balance and toward the bartender. She wheeled around to glare at them, before snatching the single flower her friend still held and about facing once more. She laughed a thin, nervous laugh and took one small step closer. A wide expanse separated them. Her footfalls echoed. 1 step, 2 steps. Then she halted, too afraid to continue. She wavered, on the brink of turning back. All at once, the crowd made good on their promise. Hollers of encouragement came from the booths behind her, whoops and cheers and whistles of "Don't give up now!" "Come on, girl, I believe in you!" "Come on, girl, I believe in you!" Once again, the singer crept across the room as though expecting to be attacked at any moment. The bartender was a statue, watching motionless. Inch by inch, the distance closed. When only a few feet remained to separate them, the singer paused. She cast an anxious look from her target to where you and Baxter were sitting. At your side, Baxter smiled and inclined his head in a nod. You followed suit, nodding in kind. Go on, go on! With the poise and slowness of a puppet yanked on strings, she extended her arm. The flower gleamed in the dim light of the bar, a flush of red hanging in the air between them. The bloom was fragile, frail, vulnerable, like a naked, helpless heart offered up in prayer. Everyone in the room held their breath. The two held each other's gaze, neither speaking a word. He knew, and she knew. This time it was real. The bartender silently placed the bowl of ice down on the bar. A moment of choice. A crossroads. Then he walked over and stretched out his fingers. He caressed the petals of the single rose, light as a feather. And then he placed his fingers over hers and gently lifted the flower free. He had accepted. The response was immediate. The space exploded with applause, cries of delight coming from all and sundry. The friend The friend jumped up and down on the spot, suppressing a squeal. High fives were exchanged. There were wolf whistles and roars of approval. Baxter and you shared a look of silent satisfaction. Amid the jubilation, the bartender returned to the counter to retrieve the bowl of ice. Maybe it was a metaphor. The winter cold swapped for the first blooms of spring. He hastened over to you and dropped a handful of cold, possibly metaphors, in yours and Baxter's glasses. He parted again with a wink.